The number of doses of vaccine per vial varies from 10, 20 or 50 doses depending on the drug company. To avoid errors, all orders are done in numbers of doses and not in numbers of vials. The number of doses of vaccine required is calculated as follows. The number of doses to be ordered is equal to the total target population, the number of people to be vaccinated, first multiplied by 17% to allow for losses due partially to misused or broken vials, then by 25%, for example, which is the buffer stock to cover unpredictable events, such as increase in the target population. The volume of vaccines must also be calculated without the solvents, to plan the transport and cold chain storage capacity. This will help identify the number of refrigerators, cold boxes and freezers required. The total vaccine volume is equal to the volume of one dose multiplied by the number of doses ordered. Be careful, the volume of vaccines varies according to the manufacturer. The quantity of safe injection equipment required depends on the number of vaccines. This material includes 0.5 milliliter auto-disable syringes, one per injection, and thus per dose of vaccine ordered, plus a buffer stock of, for example, 10%. 5, 10 or 20 milliliter syringes, depending on the manufacturer, to perform dilution of the vaccines, and 19G beige-colored needles. One dilution syringe and one needle per vial of vaccine to be reconstituted. 15-litre sharps boxes that hold approximately 400 auto-disable syringes, or else 5-litre ones that can hold approximately 100 syringes. One 500-gram roll of cotton wool per 500 injections. Other items required for staff protection are non-sterile gloves, roughly 1 pair for 100 vaccinations. 1 PEP post-exposure prophylaxis kit, povidone iodine. Vaccination cards must also be ordered with a buffer stock. It's preferable to use vaccination cards that are in use in the country and thus known to the population. In order to ensure safe injecting practices, vaccines and safe injection equipment must be available and supplied simultaneously. This is also known as the batch policy. Orders of safe injection equipment are made on the basis of the number of vaccine doses ordered. In a typical team, there are 5 people working around one vaccinator, plus the guardians. The typical team is composed of 2 registrars who fill in vaccination cards when used. They must be able to read and write, for example teachers, students or administrators. 1 vaccinator, if possible used to mass vaccination campaigns. He or she must be a medical staff member. 2 preparers who prepare the syringes and vaccines, also medical staff members. The dilution of vaccine and the preparation of doses in auto-disable syringes takes longer than vaccinating itself. The ratio of 2 preparers to 1 vaccinator should enable a steady and continuous flow of vaccinations. 1 head counter to count those vaccinated. He must be able to read and write, be quick, and have good concentration skills. 4 to 6 guards to organize the queues of people waiting and to inform them of waiting times, etc. There must be enough guards to ensure order. Their number will vary the site and the population density. Influential members of the community are useful in this role. With this team around him, experience has shown that a vaccinator should be able to vaccinate an average of 1,000 people per day in an urban zone. In rural areas, teams will be adapted and their performance will be lower. Supervision of teams is performed by a supervisor, a health professional with vaccination experience. His role is essential for team management, team support and team dynamics. The supervisor guarantees the quality of the work performed at the vaccination site. If sites are close to one another, he may supervise more than 1 vaccination site. And a logistician, who is responsible for supply and for the disposal of wastes. He must be a dynamic and highly organized person. A second logistician may be required depending on supply distances and the number of vaccination sites. The number of teams required depends essentially on the number of people to be vaccinated. 1 team can vaccinate 1,000 people per day in an urban zone. Remember, there should be no more than 2 teams per vaccination site, as too many staff will tend to reduce population flow through the site and will cause overcrowding. If there is a very large target population, it may be preferable to set up a second vaccination site. In urban areas, the same supervision team can supervise 2 or 3 sites. In rural areas, the number will vary depending on the distance and travel time between sites. When deciding upon the number of teams required, be careful not to draw upon too many regional health staff, as this would disturb regular curative care. Job profiles are written for each member of the team, making sure that the tasks of each person and any training are clear to everyone involved. Each vaccination team requires medical and logistical equipment. Guards will need armbands or overshirts for identification and a megaphone to be able to give information to large numbers of people. Registrars will need minimum 1 table with 2 chairs, vaccination cards, pens and dating stamps. Preparers will need, within arm's reach on a large table, all the medical material to dilute vaccines and prepare the auto-disable syringes. A vaccine carrier is used for the temporary storage of a small number of vaccine vials and solvents. It also conserves reconstituted vaccine vials, which are placed in the layer of foam above the ice packs. Opening the protective seal of vaccine vials and solvents is easier and faster using forceps and scissors. Both sharps boxes and normal rubbish bins need to be within arm's reach. A cold box is needed to store vaccines and solvents at the vaccination site. If necessary, a second cold box may be used for other vaccines. Each team needs 1 vaccine carrier. The vaccine carrier is used for temporary storage so as to avoid opening the cold box too often. The vaccines in the cold box are always stored with a thermometer to check the temperature. They also have individual excess temperature indicators on their vials. Vaccinators use prepared vaccination syringes handed to them directly by the preparers, cotton wool, a kidney dish, and single-use non-sterile gloves. A sharps box should always be within arm's reach so as to prevent needle stick injuries. A flask of povidone iodine should be available at each site to be used for disinfection in the event of a needle stick injury. Head counters will need a table and an adequate number of score sheets. And the supervisor will need stock cards, supervision cards, and staff attendance sheets. Other things required on each site are water bladders, buckets, soap and hand towels for hand washing, heavy-duty work gloves for staff involved with waste disposal, shade netting for waiting areas, ropes and netting to organise general circulation. The quantity of medical material required depends upon the number of people being vaccinated and the number of sites and teams. Medical material and logistics orders can be prepared after doing an inventory of what is already available on site. The volume of storage required needs to be estimated so as to identify adequate storage facilities. Remember, auto-disable syringes take up a lot of room, approximately 1 metre cubed for 17,000 syringes. The cold chain is an essential element to ensure vaccine quality. Thermosensitivity differs from one kind of vaccine to another. They must be transported and stored according to the manufacturer's specifications, right up to the person being vaccinated. The cold chain instructions notice must be meticulously followed. Cold chain equipment is made up of 2 components: active cold chain components, that is, components that produce cold, for example, freezers that produce ice and freeze ice packs, and refrigerators for vaccine storage, make sure that sufficient storage volume is available. And passive cold chain components, that is, components that retain cold, such as ice packs, cold boxes, and vaccine carriers for the vaccination teams. The size and capacity of the cold chain depends on the number of sites, the volume of vaccines to be stored, the campaign timetable, listing dates and sites, the number of teams, the overall duration of the vaccination campaign, recommended transport, and the outside temperature. On principle, and where possible, there should be a fixed cold production site, refrigeration and freezing at the same place as where the materials are stored. The cold chain site must be big, airy, well ventilated, and have reliable electricity. Electricity must be the only source of energy used. Sometimes cold chain equipment is already available on site and only needs to be supplemented. And sometimes the whole cold chain must be rapidly set up from scratch. An inventory of pre-existing stocks allows the evaluation of storage and transport capacities already available for the mass vaccination campaign. The type of equipment, brand and model are noted. This information tells us the performance, the storage volume in litres, or the ice production capacity. It's important to check that the material is in working order. If there's any doubt about whether it works, it should not be considered available for the vaccination campaign. The physical state of available ice packs must also be checked, and they must be counted specifying their different volumes, 0.3, 0.4 or 0.6 litres. The electricity supply must also be checked, its reliability, power and daily energy capacity. All this information must be synthesized on an inventory sheet. Standardized and specific information makes transmission of information easier and helps define the material that needs to be ordered. The specifications of each component may be found either in their relevant manuals or in specific technical catalogues, MSF or World Health Organization catalogues. It's important to identify other local sources of refrigeration, such as fisheries, businesses and drinks distributors. Contact should be established to see whether rental is possible. The order can be made once the cold chain has been planned, the needs assessed, and the inventory has been done of on-site material available for the campaign. MSF's experience has led to the identification of a certain number of standard actions that can be carried out using specific pre-organized blocks of material called kits and modules. A kit contains all the material required for a specific action. It's designed for emergencies and can be delivered very quickly. The MSF vaccination kit is designed for the quick setup of a vaccination campaign and contains the material to vaccinate 10,000 people by means of 5 vaccination teams. The kit is composed of cold chain, medical and logistics material. Remember, the kit does not contain any vaccines. They must be ordered separately. Depending on pre-existing material on site, either entire vaccination kits or simply specific kit components or modules may be ordered. The complete kit is comprised of 8 modules, each of which may be ordered separately. The refrigeration and refrigeration monitoring module contains active cold chain material. That is, a freezer, a refrigerator, and equipment for temperature monitoring, thermometers, temperature monitoring cards, etc. The cold chain and transport module contains passive cold chain material, that is, cold boxes, ice packs, and vaccine carriers.
Oui.
The diesel generator module kit contains a generator with its specific maintenance module covering required spare parts and consumables. The logistics material module contains the equipment required to set up vaccination sites. The safe injection equipment module contains single-use injection material and equipment required for injection safety. The medical equipment module contains diverse small medical items such as kidney dishes, metal platters and scissors. The paperwork module consists of pens, stamps, adhesive tape and exercise books. The waste disposal module contains protective clothing for staff and hygiene materials. Other modules or items that are not included in the vaccination kit may be useful, such as the dispensary equipment module, which consists of tables, folding chairs, and a roll of shade netting or dispensary tents. Emergency boxes are also ordered to treat urgent cases, including patients who may suffer side effects. When the orders arrive, the storage of materials and their distribution to the vaccination teams must be organized.